second level harmonic analysis and categories of harmonic function. Your previous training is focused on first level harmonic analysis, okay, or surface level harmonic analysis, and it would look something like this. Okay, so here's a little chorale, and you get a Roman numeral for every chord. They're all accounted for, and they're all seemingly happening at the exact same level. Everything is being accounted for. Okay, so that's kind of the first level of harmonic analysis. Okay, it's very important. But it's very important to look not only at how one chord is preceded by the next, but look at the overall picture of the harmony and notice how it fits into a particular pattern. So in tonal music, if we have an example of a phrase here, we can assume that the beginning is probably going to start with some sort of tonic expansion, and that the end is going to have some sort of cadential pattern. And the middle is typically some way to get from root position tonic. Okay, so if I were in C, the overall goal of the phrase is to start with tonic in root position, make it to dominant in root position. Okay. Now it depends, of course, if it's a half cadence or an authentic cadence, whether or not it's going to go back to tonic here. But that's the big tonal structure of a phrase. It's going to start with tonic in root position, make its way somehow up to dominant in root position, and then it may or may not resolve over there to get a cadence after that. Okay, so we can kind of generalize here and think about a harmonic model that occurs, and so we use something called categories of harmonic function to group similar chords together. All right, and so the categories of harmonic function are categories They're terms that you're familiar with, but we're kind of broadening them a little bit. So categories of harmonic function, we have the tonic category. All right, and then we have the predominant category and the dominant category. Oops. Dominant. All right. So these are, of course, chords that you already know as 1, 4, and 5. Well, actually not 4 for predominant. The subdominant is 4. So I'll come back to that in just a second. But the tonic category, it doesn't have, it's one of the smaller categories, but it's tonic in root position and tonic in first inversion. If you are labeling something based on the category of harmonic function, you'd say this is tonic, and you'd represent that with a T. All right. Dominant, we'll come back to predominant in a second. Dominant, again, we start with a 5 chord. That could also be 5, 6. All right. And any one of the dominant sevenths or their inversions. So we can have 5, 7, or 5, 6, 5, the first inversion, or 5, 4, 3, the second inversion, and 5, 4, 2, the third inversion. Okay, all of these are dominant category chords, and then category of harmonic function of dominant. And then one more is the 7, and the most common, if it's a triad, it's going to be 7 diminished 6, and we could also have 7 fully diminished 7, and its inversions as well, though really these are the most common ones that you're going to see, but it is a little bit broader than that. So that's the dominant category, quite a bit more options than the tonic category. And then the predominant also has a number of options, but as we get to chromatic harmony, this category will get quite big. So we have the 4 chord, as I mentioned earlier, possibly the 4/6, and the 2 chord, 2/6. These 2 chords can also have sevenths on them, so 2/7, and the first inversion 2/6/5. Okay. So those are all part of the predominant category. Now I've left a number of chords out. These are the most common chords that we're going to be working with, and so you want to just internalize the tonic chords in root position or first inversion or tonic category. The predominant is called a PD, and it has the 4 chords and the 2 chords, and the dominant, which are abbreviated as D, it has all of these different 5 chords and the 7 chords. Okay, so these are terms that you're familiar with, but you use them as categories to further understand how harmony is being used. Okay, so those are the categories, but to think about the other part of this, the second level harmonic analysis, we can think about how harmonies are typically, at the broader level, used in a tonal phrase, okay, which is what this is a model of. So let me here's a phrase. So a phrase is going to end with some type of cadence. That's a little box, some sort of cadence there, a cadence box. Now the phrase is going to begin, if we have a broad model of the harmonic phrase, that's going to begin with a tonic category. All right. And if it's a authentic cadence, it will end with a tonic category. But the cadence itself will require a root position dominant, okay? And that's often preceded by some form of predominant. And usually what happens in the phrase is the tonic category is stretched out for a while due to some tonic expansions and whatnot, and then we move to the predominant, and then to the dominant, and then to tonic to get the cadence. So when you're analyzing a second level, using second level harmonic analysis, these are the labels that you'll use, and you'll only use this many or less, regardless of how many chords there are. So let me show you an example of how I would use this full model. So the full model is T, P, D, D, T. That's for authentic cadences. Half cadences will just stop on the dominant. Okay. And technically, the predominant is not absolutely required. Okay. It's usually there, but it's not completely required. So let me go back to our phrase where we had the first level harmonic analysis. Right here. And notice we're not showing any bigger picture here, but this is a single phrase, all right? And you can see that we have a tonic chord, another tonic chord, its base is kind of just neighboring there, and another tonic chord, and then you can see how this is kind of passing down to tonic. And the cadence, of course, is going to happen at the end. It's an authentic cadence. We've got 5 and we've got 1 in root position. So it's an authentic cadence. And so if we're doing a second level of harmonic analysis, we'd say the tonic category started right there, and it lasted all the way up until that predominant comes in. That's the predominant category. And then it's not embellished. It's just one chord, which happens, but it can be embellished, just like this tonic chord was stretched out with tonic expansions. And then the dominant category comes in. It's a little bit stretched. It's expanded through a cadential 6/4, which is very common. And then it resolves to tonic, which itself is gets a little bit of an expansion because there is an arpeggiating 6/4. Okay, so this model is very important to tonal music, starting with tonic, making your way up to dominant, often preceded by a predominant, and then resolving to tonic if it's authentic. Okay, and notice the proportions here. This is an interesting facet of tonal music, and this phrase in particular is that tonic is stretched out for a really long time. Most of the phrase is the tonic chord in this particular example. Okay, that's common, but it's very important to see other situations. Maybe the predominant category is bigger than usual, and this is the type of thing that will help you see the harmonic proportions and how it's different from a model, and it will also help you to see that phrases are constructed in a very similar way on the broad scale, but when you get down to the first level analysis, that there are very different ways to get from scale degree 1 up to scale degree 5. And that's why each piece is going to sound different, because they find a new way to accomplish that task. So that is second level harmonic analysis and categories or harmonic function.